Does the New Testament support the doctrine that the sons of God in Genesis 6 were angels? The simple answer is no. However, we will go over two popular New Testament passages that people attempt to use to defend the flawed belief that angels are the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6. The first passage is 2 Peter 2:4. People present this verse as evidence that the sons of God in Genesis 6 are angels. The passage reads,
For God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of gloomy darkness, to be reserved unto judgment.
Show me where, in this passage, is the proof that these angels are the sons of God in Genesis 6. Again, show me where in this passage does it say the sin of the angels has anything at all to do with marrying human women. There is nothing at all in this passage that identifies the angels as sons of God. Additionally, there is nothing at all in this passage that identifies how these angels sinned. To come to the conclusion that the angels in 2 Peter 2:4 are the sons of God in Genesis 6, people must use what is called circular reasoning. Circular reasoning is where a person begins with the assumption that they are trying to prove. In this case, people want 2 Peter 2:4 to be a proof text for Genesis chapter 6. Thus, people wrongly assume that Peter was referencing Genesis chapter 6, when Peter writes about the angels that sinned and are chained in darkness. As a result, many false beliefs have been promoted based on this type of poor understanding of the Bible and the use of circular reasoning. There is nothing conclusive in 2 Peter 2:4 that one can make a definitive conclusion that the verse has anything to do with Genesis chapter 6. Peter could have been referencing the rebellion of the angels that took place at the beginning of creation, rather than Genesis chapter 6. Peter could have had passages like Isaiah 24:21 through 22, or even Psalms 107 in mind. Isaiah 24:21 through 22 reads,
And it shall come to pass in that day, that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones, that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together, as prisoners are gathered in the pit or dungeon, and shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days shall they be visited or judged.
Prisons, in biblical times, are viewed as places where one is chained, in gloomy darkness, as seen in Psalms 107:10 through 11.
Such as sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction and chains. Because they rebelled against the words of God, and rejected the counsel of the Most High.
There is another passage in Isaiah 42:7, which also talks about the darkness of prison, so there is nothing in 2 Peter 2:4 that makes the passage an unusual reference about a prison in biblical times. This also means Peter is not referencing the Book of Enoch, as some like to claim. The phrase chains of darkness in 2 Peter 2:4 is found in the R.H. Charles translation of the Book of Enoch, but is not found in the Lawrence or Shode translations. So the phrase, chains of darkness, is something unique to how Charles spun the passage. Additionally, the phrase chains of darkness is only found in chapter 103 of the Charles translation, and has nothing to do with angels being chained. The passage in chapter 103 says that human sinners, not angels, will descend into hell, into darkness and chains, and a burning flame, where there is grievous judgment, will their spirits enter. Again, chains of darkness is a common reference to prison in biblical times, as seen by the several passages from the Bible, which we have already discussed. The Book of Enoch has nothing to do with angels, nor was it something that Peter referenced when he wrote 2 Peter 2:4. The next passage is found in Jude. Jude is similar to 2 Peter 2:4, but offers a bit more information about the sins that the angels committed, which earned them confinement in hell. The passage in Jude states,
I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not. And the angels, which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness, unto the judgment of the great day. As Sodom and Gomorrah, and the cities around them, in a similar manner to these, having given themselves over to sexual immorality, and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Likewise also, these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities. Jude 1:5-8, KJV.
Unlike Peter, that just said the angels sinned, and because of their sin, the angels were held captive in hell. Jude actually states what sin the angels committed. It is here that Jude could have easily said the angels married human women, or that the angels committed fornication. But Jude says no such thing. Jude clearly lays out the sin of the angels as they kept not their first estate. But instead these angels left their own habitation. However, what exactly does that mean? What sin is there in angels leaving their first estate and habitation? The passage was originally written in Greek, so if we look at the Greek, we will see that Jude is telling us that these angels did not keep their own archon, which is their beginning, their chief function, their rule, or principality. So, the angels left their rulership or their dominion that was originally entrusted to them. The same word is used in several verses for principalities and powers. And the word is used in 1 Corinthians 15:24, where it states, "Then cometh the end, when he, Christ, shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule, and all authority, and power." The word rule in this verse is the same Greek word used in Jude 1:6 for doumain. So that tells us that the angels did not keep their own rulership. The rulership God originally assigned to them. Therefore, these angels were likely the chief rulers, or the ruling angels that joined in the rebellion with Satan. Revelation 12:4 tells us that there was a war in heaven with Satan, and 1/3 of his angels. Looking back at Old Testament passages that describe this angelic rebellion, will give us even more understanding about the Jude passage. The first passage will be Isaiah 14:12-14, which says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation, in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, I will be like the Most High." In this passage, we can see that Satan left the assignment, the dominion that God made him for, and Satan rebelled to move his habitation where God was seated. Satan wanted to become God. Satan likely convinced other ruling angels that they too could rise above their assigned positions, and join him in taking over the habitation or throne of God. Ezekiel 28 gives us even more insight into this rebellion. Starting at verse 14, we can see that Satan was an anointed cherub, that was set by God on the holy mountain of God. Verse 17 says that Satan's heart was lifted up because of his beauty, and that his wisdom was corrupted because of his brightness. Finally, verse 18 says that Satan defiled his sanctuaries, his sacred things by the multitude of his iniquities. All of this, the angelic rebellion, occurred between the time of creation and the fall of Adam and Eve. So there is no population of people that these rebellious angels could have corrupted. There are no women that these angels could have married. These angels were not satisfied with their assignment, so they rebelled against God, leaving their assignment and habitations, in the hopes of rising to a better position that they wanted to take by force. When we put Isaiah, Ezekiel, 2 Peter, Jude, and Revelation 12 together, we then have the only clear example in the Bible describing multiple angels sinning, which is the rebellion of Satan, and 1/3 of heaven's angels that followed him in that rebellion. That is the sin that Jude is describing, when he says that the angels left their dominion, and left their habitation. That sin was the sin of rebellion, a war in heaven, not marriage to human women, as some assume, because their thinking is tainted by the myths found in the Book of Enoch. Before we finish the video, let us look at one more issue that people raise about the Jude passage. People claim that Jude connects the angels with the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah. They claim that this is a rule of Greek grammar, that must connect the in like manner phrase or the likewise to these phrase, in verse 7, to the angels in verse 6. Thus, they claim the lustful sin of Sodom is also the same sin the angels also committed. This once again, is projecting on the Jude passage, what people want it to say. Just so that they can push their flawed narrative, and validate their error about Genesis chapter 6. Jude 1:7 is not. And I repeat, is not. Connecting the angels to the same sins of Sodom. Here is the proof as to why I can make that firm statement. Number 1, if you read Jude in full context, you will easily see what Jude is saying. Jude is showing that those that sinned in Israel during the wilderness, and the rebellious angels, along with the inhabitants of Sodom, will all suffer the same judgment from God. That is what they all have in common. Judgment and wrath from God, not the same type of sin. Number 2, even if you believed that angels married human women in Genesis chapter 6, that sin is not the same as the sin committed in Sodom. Although, people will say the angels went after strange flesh like the people of Sodom, so that is the sin. But, they are also the same people that claim that God created the angels to have the capacity to procreate, and have children with human women, just like a human man. Therefore, if God made it possible for angels and humans to produce children together, then why would it be a sin? In Genesis, God said like kind can only produce with like kind. So, if angels can produce children with humans, then that means angels and humans would be like kind. So, again, why would it be a sin? Can you find a passage of Scripture, a law that makes it a sin? Where is the biblical restriction against this type of relationship? These are the questions that the Genesis 6 angelic crowd and Book of Enoch advocates cannot answer from the Bible. To prop up their narrative they have to add speculation on top of speculation. One unbiblical assumption on another unbiblical assumption. Finally, if you look at verse 8 in Jude, you will see that Jude goes back up in reverse order and hits on the sins of each category again. Jude shows that these false prophets of his day are committing similar sins to the examples of Sodom, the angels, and Israel. Verse 8 says, "Likewise also these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities." These false prophets defile the flesh like the inhabitants of Sodom. They despise dominions like the angels. They speak evil of dignities, like Korah slandered Moses, God's representative on earth. So, the sins of these angels are not the same sins of Sodom. Like 2 Peter, Jude cannot be used as proof that angels are the sons of God in Genesis 6, nor can Jude be used as proof that angels married or had relations with human women. The messages of Jude and Peter have no connection to this false narrative about angels and human women. Here are some commentaries that support what we are saying. In the Albert Barnes commentary on Jude 1:7, he says that the phrase, "in a manner like these," he sees no evidence that it refers to the angels. In John Calvin's commentary on Jude 1:7, he states, when he, Jude, says, "the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication," I do not apply these words to the Israelites and the angels, but to Sodom and Gomorrah. In the Kaufman commentaries on Jude 1:7, he disputes the interpretation that angels and Sodom committed the same type of sin. In the John Gill commentary, Gill states that the phrase, "in like manner to these," is not about the angels, because they are not capable of sinning in such a manner. In the Matthew Henry commentary, Henry agrees that Jude 1, 6 and 7, is just as we have revealed it here in this video. Henry confirms what we are saying is true, that Jude is referencing the rebellion of angels, and not angels lustfully sinning like Sodom, as some falsely claim. Matthew Henry says, "There were a great number of the angels who left their own habitation." That is, who were not pleased with the posts and stations the supreme monarch of the universe had assigned, and allotted to them. So, in conclusion, Jude and 2 Peter do not support the unbiblical doctrine that angels are the sons of God. Nor do Jude and Peter support the false teaching that angels married human women in Genesis chapter 6. The angels in 2 Peter and Jude are the angels that rebelled against God from the beginning of creation. It is likely that those that are locked up in hell right now are the chief leaders of that rebellion. While other fallen angels, that roam around the world freely as demonic forces, will one day, according to Isaiah 24, be locked up and chained in the gloomy blackness of prison, with the other fallen angels, all them together waiting for the ultimate judgment and wrath of God. Thank you for watching our video. Our hope is that this video has provided adequate proof for the following. Number 1, that the sin of the angels in 2 Peter 2:4 is too vague and cannot be used to support the idea that angels married human women. 2 Peter 2:4 is also not referring to the Book of Enoch. Number 2, Jude spells out the sins the angels committed and that sin is the sin of rebellion, not a sin of any sexual nature, nor is it a sin associated with marrying human women. Therefore, we have provided the biblical proof and confirmation from several scholars that agree with our points. That point being, that Jude and 2 Peter cannot be used for the false teaching that angels are the sons of God in Genesis 6. Nor can Jude and Peter be used to support the false belief of a second rebellion of angels, which supposedly came down out of heaven, just to marry human women. There is no second rebellion of this sort supported by the Bible. That false belief is only supported by the speculation and assumption of those who are motivated to push a false narrative about the Bible. We hope that you enjoyed the content of the video and will share it with at least 2 others, or perhaps even more. You are a big part of our ministry, because you can help spread the word. We are striving to put out more videos like this, so that we can refute all the countless myths, false teachings, and speculation about God's word. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel and authorize notification. The benefit of subscribing is that you are alerted when we have new video. We are expanding and planning to cover even more unique biblical topics, and we would love for you to view those videos. So, please subscribe now while you are viewing this video. Finally, consider visiting our main ministry page on Refuteit.com. We also produced 2 books on the topic called The Book of Enoch Debunked, and The Bible versus the Book of Enoch. Both are available on major book retailers. Until our next video, Maranatha.